Hello and welcome to Indus News. Live from Islamabad, I'm Naila Shujra and these are the headlines. The Taliban claim to have captured 4 more districts in Afghanistan. Spokesperson Zabiullah Mujahid named the Azra district in Logar province and the Karabakh district in Ghazni. He said the fighters have also seized Charachino district in Uruzgan province and Ghazivan in Faryab province. The Taliban say they have killed 30 government troops, while Kabul says it has killed 15 fighters near the provincial capital of Kunduz. India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi is set to chair an all-party meeting on occupied Jammu and Kashmir on Thursday. The Gupkar Alliance of Kashmiri politicians says it will press Modi to restore Kashmir's disputed status and full statehood. Meanwhile, Hurriyat leader Altaf Hussain Wani says the center is holding talks with so-called politicians. The Arab coalition says it has destroyed 5 armed drones launched by the Houthis towards Saudi Arabia. The coalition said one of the drones was targeting the southern province of Jazan. It said the deliberate and systematic Houthis escalation constitutes as a war crime. Brazil has registered a single-day record of more than 115,000 coronavirus cases. In Pakistan, 38 more people have died due to the virus, while nearly 1,100 tested positive overnight. Globally, the virus has claimed more than 3.8 million lives and has infected over 179 million others. For more news and details, stay tuned. We'll be right back after a short break. Welcome back. The Taliban claim to have captured 4 more districts in Afghanistan. In a tweet, spokesperson Zabiullah Mujahid named the Azra district in Logar province and Karabakh district in Ghazni. He said the fighters have also seized Charachino district of Uruzgan province and Ghazivan in Faryab province. The Taliban also said they have killed 30 government troops, injured 45 and captured 54 near their provincial capital of Kunduz. Meanwhile, Kabul says it has killed 15 Taliban fighters and destroyed a large weapon cache in airstrikes on the outskirts of Kunduz. Earlier, U.S. Joint Chiefs Chairman General Mark Milley said 81 of the 419 districts' centers had come under the control of the Taliban. A United States delegation will visit Turkey on Thursday to discuss security at the Kabul airport in Afghanistan. In a press briefing, Turkish Defense Minister Hulusi Akar said necessary measures will be taken after talks conclude. However, Akar ruled out the possibility of sending additional troops to the country. Earlier, U.S. Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, General Mark Milley, said there is yet to be a written agreement. Testifying before the House of Armed Services Committee, Milley indicated that reaching a deal on the matter. The general said that he is confident that the security of the Kabul airport will be maintained. Ankara has been running the military and logistic operations of the Kabul airport for 6 years as part of the NATO-led mission. India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi is set to chair an all-party meeting on occupied Jammu and Kashmir on Thursday. The Gupkar Alliance of Kashmiri politicians says that it will press Modi to restore Kashmir's disputed status and full statehood. In a press briefing, the alliance made it clear that there will be no compromise on the restoration of Articles 370 and 35A. The alliance said that it will also seek the release of all Kashmiri political detainees. The government has invited 14 leaders from occupied Kashmir, but no agenda has been set for the meeting. Kashmir's all-parties Hurriyat conference will not be a part of the engagement. Hurriyat leader Altaf Hussain Wani says the center is holding talks with so-called politicians. The Arab coalition says it has destroyed 5 armed drones launched by Houthis towards Saudi Arabia. The coalition said one of the drones was targeting the southern province of Jazan. It said deliberate and systematic Houthi escalation constitutes as a war crime. The coalition said that it is taking measures to protect the civilians from such hostile attacks. The latest strike comes a few days after the coalition claimed to have destroyed 17 Houthi drones within 24 hours. Israeli soldiers have shot at least 5 Palestinians in Beit Dajan village east of the northern West Bank city of Nablus. Palestinian media quoted medics as saying that the victims were hit by rubber-coated bullets and live rounds. It said the occupation forces also fired tear gas, causing many to suffocate. The Israeli army also abducted a Palestinian child after raiding a park in a village in southern Nablus. While in occupied East Jerusalem's Old City, Israeli forces abducted 5 Palestinians, including 3 of a family. Earlier, Palestine President Mahmoud Abbas said he would only work with the new Israeli administration if it stops aggression. The United States, Japan, and Sri Lanka have begun joint military drills throughout South and Southeast Asia. The United States Pacific Fleet said the 27th annual exercises highlights Washington's commitment to a free and open Indo-Pacific. In a statement, it said the exercise ensures maritime security, stability, and prosperity. Expeditionary Strike Group Commander Rear Admiral Christopher Engdahl said the drills create an opportunity to sharpen skills and share the experience. This is the first year that the Japan Maritime Self-Defense Force is joining CARAT, Sri Lanka, as an official participant. Japan's Ground Defense Force and the U.S. Army are also holding one of their largest ever training exercises. The Orient Shield exercise will be conducted across the country through July 11th. Meanwhile, Indian naval ships and aircrafts are participating in a 2-day passage exercise with the USS Ronald Reagan during its transit through the Indian Ocean region. Beijing says it will take all necessary measures to safeguard the legitimate interest of Chinese companies. The statement comes after the U.S. blacklisted 5 Chinese firms over alleged human rights violation in Xinjiang. At a press briefing, Foreign Ministry spokesperson Zhao Lijian said Beijing condemned the sanctions. China has persistently dismissed accusations of genocide and forced labor in Xinjiang, calling them rumors with ulterior motives. Washington restricted exports to the companies, accusing them of advancing what it called Beijing's repression campaign. The entities are major manufacturers of monocrystalline silicon and polysilicon used in solar panel production. Brazil has registered a single-day record of more than 115,000 coronavirus cases. Globally, the virus has claimed more than 3.8 million lives and has infected over 179 million others. More in this report. As daily cases in Brazil hit a record high, investigations into government's alleged neglect gain momentum. A Brazilian Senate committee has allowed Google, Facebook, and Twitter representatives to testify in an ongoing probe into the government's handling of the pandemic. The Senate committee and prosecutors are investigating why the government sought to close a deal for more expensive vaccines from India while ignoring early offers from Pfizer. Meanwhile, Brazil is set to receive 3 million doses of Johnson & Johnson vaccines from neighboring U.S. U.S. officials plan to strengthen cautions about cardiac complications as a side effect of the Pfizer and Moderna vaccines, mostly in people under 26. Unlike other parts of the world, the Delta variant is wreaking havoc in Russia, where Moscow and St. Petersburg hit all-time high daily death records.
The death rate is extremely bad. For 2 days in a row, we've been getting a record daily death rate. Of course, this situation is partly linked to the safety measures adherence like mask wearing, etc. But nonetheless, it does not explain the spike we are observing now. So we studied the strains which predominated today, and about 90% of sick people in Moscow have got the Indian strain, so-called Delta variant.
French authorities say the Delta variant currently accounts for 9 to 10% of confirmed new cases in the country. Over in Australia, too, New South Wales reported a double-digit rise in new local cases for a 3rd day in a row.
Can I say, notwithstanding those circumstances, that since the pandemic has started, this is perhaps the scariest period that New South Wales is going through, and Dr. Chan and I are of equal view of that. It is a very contagious variant, but at the same time, we are at this stage comfortable that the settings that are in place are the appropriate settings.
India has reported more than 1,300 deaths and just above 54,000 infections over the past 24 hours. Meanwhile, Saudi Arabia has authorized the mix and match approach for either the first or second dose of the vaccine. Pakistan has reported 38 more deaths from coronavirus in the past 24 hours. The health ministry says the death toll has surged to 22,108. It added at least 1,097 people tested positive for the virus overnight. There are 33,000 active cases in the country at present, with over 2,000 in critical condition. Pakistan has reported nearly 951,000 cases since the pandemic began, with more than 896,000 recoveries. In the Philippines, 6 people have died after a military helicopter crashed in Tarlac during a night flying exercise. In a statement, the Air Force said the chopper was carrying 3 pilots and 3 crew members. The Air Force has grounded all of its newly acquired Black Hawk combat utility helicopters following the mishap. The Air Force said no Polish-made Black Hawks will be flown until an investigation is complete. The Philippines purchased 16 copters from Poland in 2019. UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres has appealed to extend a cross-border aid operation into Syria for another year. The mandate for the operation is set to expire on the 10th of July. In an address to the Security Council, Guterres warned that a failure to do so would be devastating for millions of people. Russia's UN ambassador said aid can be delivered from the capital Damascus, as the crossing violates Syria's territorial integrity. The Syrian envoy also called the crossing points as politicized and said it was a temporary measure for old conditions. Meanwhile, the U.S. ambassador joined Guterres in appealing to the Council to vote in favor of the mandate. Top European Union diplomat Stavros Lambrinidis has urged the United States to ease COVID-19 related travel restrictions on Europeans. At a virtual event, Lambrinidis said that it is a mistake to prevent Europeans from overseeing their American investments. The diplomat said 60% of foreign investment in the United States comes from Europe. Lambrinidis noted that Brussels allows U.S. citizens working in Europe to enter without any restrictions. But he regretted that Europeans are not allowed to return to the United States, even if they are vaccinated or quarantined. The envoy said Brussels is working to resolve the issue, and he is hopeful for an agreement soon. He added that the dispute over U.S. steel and aluminum tariffs is complex, but there is a simple time to resolve it. The European Union is preparing to say goodbye to German Chancellor Angela Merkel. The summit in Brussels on Thursday may be the last for Merkel as Chancellor before federal elections in September. For 15 years, she sat across the negotiation table from 4 French presidents, 5 British prime ministers, and 8 Italian premiers. She often became a target during angry street protests, caricatured on placards and protesters from Athens to Lisbon. Nonetheless, both Brussels and Berlin say they will miss Merkel heading Germany. The United States has once again voted against a UN resolution calling for an end to Washington's embargo on Cuba.
The 193-member chamber adopted the resolution for the 29th time this year. 184 members voted in favor of the resolution, 3 members abstained. The U.S. and Israel were the only 2 that opposed the resolution. Washington has consistently voted against the resolution for 24 years. It defends the sanctions as the only set of tools in its effort to push Cuba to advance democracy. The UN vote carries political weight, but only the U.S. Congress can lift the more than 50-year-old embargo. According to the Cuban authorities, historically this policy has caused damages of almost $149 billion.
A top U.S. general warns that issues like water scarcity could drive a conflict involving 3 nuclear states, Pakistan, India, and China. In a webinar, commander of the U.S. Central Command discussed how non-military factors advance security interests. General Kenneth McKenzie said environmental concerns are often a key driver of conflict because they deal with basic human needs. He said quickly melting Hindu Kush and Himalayan glaciers can undermine the water supply for 2 billion people living in South Asia. The general said sustainable states throughout the Middle East and Central Asia are important for regional peace and stability. The United States has declared domestic terrorism as the greatest terrorist threat it faces. Secretary of Homeland Security Alejandro Mayorkas made the remarks in an interview. He noted cyber attacks are another big challenge facing the United States and the world. Mayor Cause said cybersecurity threat is not new, but it is growing and is one of the top priorities of the United States. The number of ransomware attacks increased by 300% in 2020. The secretary said the cyber attacks are supported by states as well as carried out by criminal organizations. It's now time for a short break. Stay with us. Welcome back. Egypt has retrieved 114 looted antiquities smuggled to France. French and Egyptian authorities carried out a joint operation to prevent the sale and trade of relics. Egypt's chief public prosecutor Hamada Al-Soya said a high-level delegation to Paris where the items were examined. The authorities took inventory of the artifacts to prepare them to be transferred to Cairo. The statement did not provide further details on the nature of the artifacts. In Spain, British-born U.S. technology entrepreneur John McAfee has committed suicide in a Barcelona prison. His lawyers say McAfee took the measure in despair after the Spanish High Court authorized his extradition to the United States. The lawyer says McAfee still had opportunities to appeal his conviction but could not stand more time in jail. Prison authorities say they are investigating the cause of death. McAfee was indicted in Tennessee on tax evasion charges and was charged in cryptocurrency fraud case in New York. In 2019, the tech mogul said that he had not paid U.S. income taxes for 8 years for ideological reasons. McAfee worked for NASA, Xerox, and Lockheed Martin before launching the world's first commercial antivirus in 1987. He sold his software company to Intel in 2011 and no longer had any involvement in the business. The program still carries his name and has 500 million users worldwide. In the U.S. state of California, a bushfire has broken out near a hillside casino in San Diego County, prompting evacuation warnings. The fire erupted amid excessive heat alerts for parts of California, Oregon, and Washington. The blaze, dubbed Mesa Fire, sparked along a freeway and quickly grew to 260 acres. It has not been contained so far. The National Weather Service is expected to issue a new red warning flags in California over the risk of wildfires. Last year, wildfires scorched more than 17,000 square kilometers of land and destroyed hundreds of Californian homes. In Japan, a month ahead of the Olympic Games, Tokyo has another reason to celebrate as the giant panda Shinshin has given birth to twins. This is the first panda birth at the Ueno Zoo has seen in 4 years and the first twin birth they have ever had. The gender of the cubs has not been determined and they have not been named yet. It is not immediately known when the newborn cubs are expected to go on display at the zoo. Pandas are notoriously difficult to breed in captivity as the females go into heat only once a year and can be picky about their partners. An Australian scientist has mastered initiating and understanding the numerous shrills and croaks of the frogs to locate them in the wild. More in this report. Wading through a moonlit pond talking to frogs makes Michael Mahoney feel like a kid again. And the 70-year-old biology professor and conservationist at the University of Newcastle gets a thrill every time they call back. But the amphibian expert fears these same frogs are now more at risk of going quiet. Australia has about 240 species of frog, but around 30% of them are threatened in a variety of ways. Climate change, water pollution, habitat loss, and the chytrid fungus.
In my lifetime, I've seen 7 Australian frogs go extinct that I have seen myself and that no longer exist. When we don't hear the sounds of nature, we know something is wrong in our environment, and that would be an incredibly sad event.
Beyond working to preserve their habitat across Australia, Mahoney has helped to develop a cryopreservation method to help bring back frogs back from the edge of extinction by banking genetic material.
We test to make sure that sperm that we collect can fertilise eggs and that they maintain their fertility as a proof of concept. And so in Australia, what we've done in the face of the problems of a catastrophic loss of species is to establish the first genome bank for Australian frogs.
He also contributed with other scientists to a study by the Worldwide Fund for Nature that found nearly 3 billion Australian animals were killed or displaced by bushfires in 2019 and 2020, including 51 million frogs. China has complained with the World Trade Organization over Australia's anti-dumping and anti-subsidiary measures. The Foreign Ministry says Beijing will appeal against Australia's duties on railway wheels, wind towers, and stainless steel sinks. In a press briefing, spokesperson Gao Feng said China hopes Australia can adopt concrete measures to fix things. Meanwhile, Australia's Trade Minister Dan Tehan said Canberra was taken by surprise by Beijing's appeal. The complaint comes just days after Australia took similar action against China over tariffs on Australian wine. European stocks are cautiously advancing as investors look ahead to various data releases. The CAC 40 in Paris is leading the gains, rising nearly 1%. The Pan-European Stock 600, Italy's FTSE MIB, and Frankfurt's DAX have also added close to 1%. London's FTSE has gained marginally as well. Earlier Asian markets traded mixed. Stocks in Hong Kong and Seoul's Kospi gained, while Australia's ASX 200 and Japan's Nikkei 225 shed. It's now time to take a look at the weather updates from around the world. For the latest news updates, you can follow us on our social media at indus.news.